whatever the logic of Israel's bombardment of Gaza has been, it has failed. There's an utter failure here by Israel. For all Israel has accepted Israel terrorists completely decapitated. We've never seen that before. And just in the context of the last 4 wars of Israel and Gaza, it's clear, strategically speaking, that the Hamas performance has exceeded anything that we've seen before. If you look back at 2009, 2014, and you look at what we're seeing today, clearly, whatever the logic of Israel's retaliation, whatever the logic of Israel's bombardment of Gaza has been, it has failed. There's an utter failure here by Israel for all Israelis and for everyone in the region and beyond to see clearly. The first impression that we've had today will probably be lasting and ingrained in the memory of every Israeli and of everyone who watched. And Israel will not get a second chance at changing the first impression. And that is humiliation, humiliation, humiliation that we've never seen in many decades of this conflict.
Mm. Now, we're only at the beginning of this, I fear, and also potentially only at the beginning of the killing. And the death toll is already extremely high. At least 100 Israelis killed, at least 200 Palestinians killed. And Israel has promised that the Gazastrip or Hamas, I believe, I forget exactly how it was worded by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, would pay the highest price that they have ever paid. I mean, we are potentially, Marwan, looking at the bloodiest response that we've ever seen by Israel in the Gaza Strip.
Unfortunately, you are right. Wars are tragic. There's nothing to celebrate about war, even victories, because in the end of the day, this is a very bloody and awful situation for everyone involved. I think the problem beyond the humanitarian analysis is to go into the strategic and the military ones, because in the end of the day, this is a colonial setting, an occupation that went on for 5+ decades, a dispossession of a people that went on for over 7 decades. And the Palestinians have never stopped to fight. They've never stopped to struggle. They've been steadfast throughout all these years. And clearly, they have been improving their games. It is resistance against occupation. It is colonized against the colonials. It's the occupied against the occupier. Once you understand that, once our viewers around the world understand this framework, they will not see this as simply a conflict that is illogical or irrational. They will see that there is a people who refuse to die on their knees in humiliation and rather fight on their feet for freedom and justice. Just like those here in the West who continually support the Ukrainians against the Russian aggression and support them and aid them with the most sophisticated fighter jets of F-16 and the most sophisticated missiles like the Patriot batteries. They look at the Palestinians and say, no, 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 that's not okay, this is terror, and we support Israel. How could the West, with such double standard and hypocrisy, be able to stand with an apartheid regime, with a colonial power that's been going on for so many decades that there is absolutely no possibility to justify it? So this is not just a random conflict, and this is not sort of an inter-ethnic or inter-religious conflict. There's a very clearly defined context here. This is the last example of colonialism from the 20th century. And this is the last situation of apartheid. Apartheid in South Africa was long gone back in 1994. And yet the Israelis continue to insist that they must continue to repress the Palestinians, take their land, settle it illegally, and keep violating and concentrating their religious symbols and religious places of worship. That's just not acceptable to the Palestinians. And much of the international community, and here I'm talking about the international public opinion, not certain hypocritical governments, whether in the region or throughout the world, that will not judge the act on its merit, but judge it according to who's behind, who's the actor. So if Israel carries wholesale terrorism against the Palestinians and occupies their land, that's okay, because Israel is our ally, says the West. If the Palestinians resist occupations, as Ukrainians are resisting Russian occupation,